Hey guys, Jonathan here, and in today's video, we're taking a look at every LEGO Ant-Man minifigure ever made and comparing them from 2015 all the way up to present day. Now, I might just be the leading authority on the Ant-Man costume because I've cosplayed almost every single version of Ant-Man, so I've researched his suits extensively, and this is going to be an especially fun video since it's near and dear to my heart. But LEGO has been very interesting with giving us Ant-Man minifigs. We got 2 in 2015, 1 in 2018, 1 in 2019, and then no more until now in 2025. Then, of course, we got the big fig here, which was really cool, the brick-built one we'll talk about. And we've also gotten 2 buildable figures, one in the Quantumania set and the other in the Civil War Airport battle set in 2025. For the sake of this video, I'm not counting either of those, for 2 reasons. First off, I hate those style of sets with the construction figures, and second off, they're not traditionally minifigures, whereas everything else here are minifigs or minifig adjacent, and of course, we'll also take a look at the 2025 mech, but that will come in good time. So let's wind back the clocks to the first Ant-Man set ever and start breaking it down. Also, guys, I have a song called Let's Get Small that I wrote about the Ant-Man franchise. I love this character so much that I wrote a song about it, and there's a LEGO stop-motion animation on my channel, so you guys should definitely check that out. I'll link it here, and I always appreciate when you guys support my music, so thanks so much for that, and let's get into the comparison now. We'll kick things off in 2015 with the Ant-Man Final Battle set, which of course came out alongside the first Ant-Man film. We got 2 Ant-Men in that set. One of them is actually Hank Pym, and the other, of course, is Scott Lang. Now, you might be wondering, why is Hank Pym in an Ant-Man suit? In the original draft of the movie, Hank Pym was actually supposed to, turn evil at the end and go crazy, but gratefully, they did not go that route when it was all said and done, but the LEGO set, I guess, was too far into production, so they had to include him. So he's one of the very few MCU figures that, doesn't actually exist in the MCU, but, kind of got scrapped for concept art. There's very few instances like that, and actually, it might be cool to make a video like that. Huh. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I'll probably do that here soon. Anyways, as you can see, both figures use basically the exact same print and everything. It's just the Hank Pym figure is blacked out. Speaking of which, he got the black helmet, and that kind of brings us to the elephant in the room, the fact that the helmet, you can see their mouth. Well, in the original concept art for the movie, that's how it was supposed to be, but as the movie production developed, they decided to close off the mouth, and they kind of explain it in a one-liner about, the air particles changing size. When you change size, you need to be able to regulate the breath and so on and so forth. So it is kind of interesting, but we would still get this helmet for 3 more years after this before LEGO would finally course correct in 2019. That being said, the printing on the back actually is not super accurate to what made it to the final film, but what we have to take away from it is both of these figures were based off of concept art, so hopefully someday LEGO goes back and revisits that 2015 Ant-Man movie with a set where we could get a more accurate Ant-Man in both cases. When I lifted up the helmets before, you could see that they reused heads, Hank Pym being from Gandalf and Scott Lang being from Ezra from Star Wars Rebels. So in the 2016 airport battle set, we got this brick-built Ant-Man. In 2025, we'd get another one, but that's like a construction figure, and this one is traditionally built like an actual minifig. The arms raise on the side, the hands turn like a minifig, and the legs even move like a minifig. We can move the mouthpiece down to see that there, and the head print was printed, but everything else you see here were stickers. Because this is more traditionally like a minifig, I do count it as a minifig. However, I don't count those big construction figures. Well, we already talked about this, but mostly because I don't like them. And secondly, because they just don't fit in with minifigs quite as well as something like this does. The construction on it was absolutely great. I can't believe LEGO did this for basically a year or two in 2016, 2017, because they did one for Ninjago, and they also did one for the Wonder Woman movie. But beyond that, they just kind of abandoned this idea of doing these brick-built minifigs. I honestly think they could sell sets like this, do every single character like this, but at least we got one for Giant Man, and it is really great all these years later. 3 years later, we would get the Ant-Man and the Wasp minifigure, of course, from the film of the same title. This came in the Quantum Realm Explorer set, and as we would see, Ant-Man would wear the same suit in that film as he would in Avengers Endgame. So because of that, we didn't get another one for Endgame because well, it was already basically released like 5 seconds before. So it is a very cool figure. It does use that open mouth helmet again. When we lift it up, you can see the head that was chosen to use underneath, which is odd because now they use this head for Peter Parker all these years later. So LEGO Marvel just loves reusing pieces, but we did get the incredible leg print here, which looks absolutely awesome. And I guess we should just kind of jump ahead in the comparison and show you the 2025 side by side, since these are meant to represent the same suit. They take a very different approach. The 2025 one feels a lot more flat to me, whereas on the 2018 one, you can see that there's like some curvature to the belt and even some curvature to like the torso there, but the 2025 one has the red tubing around the shoulders, which is accurate, and we can see the little red lights on the shoulders too, which is great as well. The belt is a lot more thick, and I assume that that's to compensate for the fact that we don't get leg printing on the new one, because the leg printing here actually kind of connects up with like the red and the silver in that corner that connects from the hip to the torso, and of course it connects from the hip down to the leg. So that leg printing on the original is absolutely immaculate, and don't worry, I will be upgrading this figure here soon to make it the best version. But that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our next Ant-Man figure. So that brings us to 2019 when we got the Avengers Endgame sets, which they tried not to do any spoilers in the sets, so basically every single Avenger came in these white quantum suits. Really, Ant-Man and War Machine were the only two that were like super cool because they got exclusive helmet pieces. So underneath you can see Ant-Man's got that same face that they used in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but it was the debut and for a long time the only Ant-Man helmet like this with the closed mouth and great printing on the front. There's not much to say about this figure because of that, but it is what it is. I will say we also got a micro figure of this Ant-Man that came in the Endgame Compound Final Battle set, so it was cool to get a micro figure of this, although the micro figure really could represent any of the Avengers since they all kind of look the same when they shrink down to that level. On the topic of micro figures, I think now is a good time to talk about these. On the left, we have the Captain America Civil War micro figure from 2016, and on the right, we have the Ant-Man micro figure that debuted in 2021 and has been used in LEGO Marvel sets ever since. You can tell there is a slight difference. A lot of people don't know this, but on the 2021, you can see he's got the red lines near the helmet, and on the 2016, that was a prototype suit in the MCU lore, so it had a new helmet, new suit, and everything. You can see there's a little more silver on the 2016 versus the later one, but they are incredibly similar, but slightly different. So check your collections and make sure you got both if you're trying to do a complete run. And that basically leaves us with the 2025 one, which we actually kind of looked at just a minute ago, but we'll look in a little bit more detail here. The helmet print is really great. I like the reflections of red on the eyes, and of course the red above the eyes has that little bit of shading on the inside of both that looks really great. The helmet is a really great silver color, love that. Great printing on the back of this. Oh my gosh, that print is amazing. In fact, I don't think I showed you the other figure turned around. So this is the 2018. The backs are pretty similar on them, but yeah. Anyways, really great figure all around. One of the only saving graces from the Endgame Final Battle set in 2025. But even then, with that set being $100, it's not worth it just to get this one figure. But yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and look at the mech that he comes with. Oh man. For what it's worth, I do think it's worth taking a look at the 2025 mech, mostly because it's so new and a lot of people wouldn't have seen it yet, but basically it's just like all mechs. You open it up, you put the figure inside like this, put his arms down, and then you close it, and now he's Giant Man. Ooh, okay, in my opinion, this is not really a minifig, it's just a mech. Like, if this counts as a minifig, like upscaled, then does that mean every LEGO Marvel mech to date has been using PIM particles, and then that just opens a whole new can of worms. So to me, it's just easier to not count this as a mech than it is to try and backwards rationalize it. But it's got the shoulder mobility, we can move the fingers on the hands, we can move it at the hips, we can move it at the ankles, and it even twists at the hips as well, like that. It's a solid enough build, I guess. I just am not a big fan of LEGO Marvel mechs to begin with, and especially like this when it kind of breaks the lore. So, it is what it is, but I feel like we should count it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and round out the video. Alright guys, that's going to bring us to the end of the video. Needless to say, I'm very passionate about all things Ant-Man, and I absolutely love this character and all his minifigs from over the years. Well, most of them. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.